Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dogco Secrets Podcast. My name is Michelle Kline. I am your host, and I am also the founder of Dogco Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. For today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about something that is pretty top of mind for me right now, and that is planning for 2026. And before we even get into planning for next year, I want to take us back a step to instead talk about how do we approach planning? How do we become a better planner? Because I do believe there's really an art form in planning. There's a certain intention we need to put behind our planning to make it really effective. So that's what we're going to get into today. All right, so there are 5 things I want to talk to you about when it comes to becoming a better planner. So we're just going to go through in order and we're just going to talk it through, and I'm going to give you some of my top of mind thoughts. Number 1, I want you to slow down. So this story is something that happened to me this week. So one of my clients sent me a message and said she was trying to work on some metrics for her business that she needed in order to make some decisions. And if you have a business, which if you're listening to this, I'm guessing you do, you'll know that sometimes when you start kind of pulling this data thread, it can be a long thread. It can be a longer thread than you expected. And all of a sudden, you're knee deep in trying to make sense of some numbers that you're looking at. And it doesn't make sense and it's frustrating and overwhelming, etc. She was kind of in that place of like, I'm trying to figure this out. I keep getting stuck. I sent her a couple thoughts, didn't think much about it after because I was kind of running into something. I get a message from her the next day where she said, I cleared my day and spent 10 hours figuring it out. That really stood out to me because I rarely give myself the gift of that much time around trying to solve a problem. She knew how fundamentally important this information was to her business long term and had the self-discipline to say, you know what, all the little fires burning today, those aren't going to get done. Instead, I'm going to focus on this big picture item that I need to know in order to go into next year well. I plan to kind of file this story away mentally for myself for quite a while because I don't do that enough. I don't let myself slow down to really think and to plan and to let the little fires burn so that I can deal with the big fires that are coming 6 to 10 months from now. We do not always have to rush. Our culture tells us we do, our business tells us we do, and we don't. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we are always rushing. Does that mean we can just go off the grid? No. There are things going on that we have to prioritize, we have to make time for. We do have to get back to our team. We do have to run payroll. We do have to deal with the upset client, whatever it is. But there's a certain wisdom periodically in letting yourself slow down, just putting a stop on the rush so that you can really plan and plan well. If you feel stuck in your pet care business, this one is for you. I've worked with over 200 companies in the pet care industry, and this is what I can tell you. If you feel stuck in your business, if you are struggling with burnout, if your net profit is too low, if you're not growing your top line revenue, those changes will not happen by accident. My name is Michelle Kline. I am a coach consultant in the pet care space, and I help team-based companies grow and scale. We have just opened up our doors for enrollment, and we are only taking companies once a year. So if you want to work with Dogco, if you have that on your radar, January 2026 is your chance, and you need to schedule a consultation now. Go to dogcolaunch.com/mastermind to learn more. That's the energy I'm bringing into 2026. Let's do this well. Let's not do this rushed because we can do it better that way. All right, number 2, and I actually am going to use the same story to model this. So what I have second when it comes to becoming a better planner is follow the thread. Let yourself get curious. So going back to the example of this company that I mentioned who spent 10 hours working on data in their business, we actually had a phone call this morning where they were kind of like filling me in on all the things that they found and kind of how they got there and what they were exploring. If you're watching this on YouTube, you currently see Ronan in the frame. So please enjoy. He's very cute. Following the thread, getting curious. So when she sat down to look at the data, part of how this turned into such a large adventure is she started having to really dig to find these numbers. She was kind of pulling this thread of, well, what if I found this number? Oh, well, that kind of affects this. And what if I did some discovery there? And I think when we get really, really good at planning, there is something to be said for letting yourself just get curious and to ask really good questions more so than coming in with defined outcomes that you're expecting to hit. When I had my pet care business, there was a practice that I would do, and I really want to get back to this with Dogco. I've fallen off of it a little bit, where once a quarter, I would take a weekend away by myself. And I would go to think and I would go to plan. I realized that I always was coming into that weekend with this like really clear cut agenda. Like, I want to hit this, this, and this. And then inevitably I would sit down and I would feel inspired and I would go in a totally different direction, but I would always end up where I needed to be. And that is something that I want to give myself more room for this year, is just curiosity. And curiosity as far as how that affects where I go and what I do. So when it comes to planning, I would say give yourself enough space to follow the thread, to kind of pull a thread in your business, to pull a number, to pull a metric, to start workshopping an idea, and to get really curious about what that could look like, and to let yourself be curious, because I think that can feel kind of vulnerable, but it's really important. All right, number 3, in the art of becoming a better planner. There's a thing that people do when it comes to planning, and I do it as well, where we get really fixated on the end state we want to hit, and that's it. So it's like, I want to do this big thing next year or in the next 6 months, and I'm going to name that as my goal, the end. And what I am trying to get better at is whenever I set a goal, breaking it down into really concrete steps of what would need to happen to hit that goal. And then making sure I have a defined next step and that I take the time to think through the plan enough to have that. Because I found for myself, if I have a clearly defined next step, the chances of me actually taking action are way higher than if I have a big lofty goal without a pathway to get there. I don't need to have the entire pathway at one time. I actually think that's not a great use of time because the variables will always change as you get further in. But I do think that having the next step, ideally with a defined time commitment of when you are going to do it, is setting you up for success when it comes to planning and actually achieving what you want to achieve. And pushing yourself to actually get concrete and to really think through, what would I need to do next? Defining that out, ideally writing it down. Y'all might be similar to this, or maybe it's just me. Things don't feel real unless they're written somewhere, whether it's like pen and paper or it's somewhere in my computer. I have to write it out for it to be something tangible that I can actually put into place. And that practice serves me. I will let you decide if it serves you, but break it down into the next smallest steps, ideally writing it down. The 4th step in becoming a better planner, this is kind of along the lines of getting curious, but letting yourself ask questions. And there are 4 questions that I recommend you hold at the forefront when you are thinking about planning or you are actually planning. So number 1, asking yourself, what does it look like for this to be done? So for me to take a look at whatever I'm planning and for it to be complete, what does that look like? And ideally in very specific detail. Next, asking yourself, okay, so if that's what it looks like to be done, what does it look like to be done well? If I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I killed that. What's the difference? What's the gap? And what does that look like specifically? Next, a question I always ask myself, what are the fail points? So what is the most likely reason that this will not succeed? Because that gives you an idea of what you need to plan against, like what you need to plan against happening. And then finally, what are the pivots? When something doesn't go to plan, how am I going to pivot to still hit my goal? These 4 questions, I think, give you a really robust framework to think through anything that you are trying to do. And then finally, my final and 5th tip for becoming a better planner Manufacture accountability for yourself. Accountability is so important to hitting our goals. It's one reason that I'm a big believer in involving other people in what you do. I should speak for myself. I struggle with self accountability. I'm not proud of it. I do. Like, if I say I'm going to go to the gym, there's a 50-50 chance I actually make it. I don't like that. I want to become more disciplined. I want to have more self accountability. But more than that, I want to hit my goals. And I know that this is a risk area for me. So this year I started working out with a trainer because I will cancel on myself at 5:30 a.m. to go to the gym. I will not cancel on another human being that got out of their warm, cozy bed to come meet me to work out. I know myself. I know I will not do that. Therefore, this is the most consistent I have worked out since I was in high school, which is actually really cool. That was a big goal for me this year. And I'm ending the year with just having hit that goal. I'm carrying a lot of muscle right now. I've hit a lot of my health goals. I'm really, really, really proud of that work. I would not say I am truly any more disciplined. I just have manufactured an environment where I know I will not choose a different action because I would find that hurtful to somebody. Not hurtful is probably not the right word, but I won't cancel on someone at 5:30 in the morning. I just won't do it. So that is a way I've manufactured accountability to hit that goal this year. And so I would encourage you, if you have a goal, figuring out how you could put accountability in place that actually works for you. And I think getting honest. So my goal this year, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but my goal this year was to really focus on getting in shape physically. January went by and February went by, and I was like, I haven't made any different actions. I just am beating myself up more because I'm not hitting this. And that's when I started to get a trainer because I was like, I think I could pretend this isn't real for me and I don't need this like I have been doing, or I could just get very honest about the fact that I keep saying this is important and I keep not doing it. And I need to change something about the environment so that I will succeed. So I changed the environment. My goal didn't change, just the actions and the accountability around it. So, any ways that you can put accountability in place, manufacture accountability for yourself, I think is huge. All right, those are my 5 tips for becoming a better planner. If you would like to share on social media any tips that you have, I'd love for you to tag me and give me feedback. Let me know what resonates with you, what doesn't, and what content you'd like to hear more of on the podcast. All right, everybody, thank you.